These two words make any woman pause, often without conscious awareness of why. Many men report similar experiences. They attempt to speak, yet feel overlooked. Their words seem appropriate, but the response feels flat or absent. The interaction ends with uncertainty about what went wrong. This pattern is common and rarely explained clearly. In most cases, difficulty does not stem from appearance, financial status, or a lack of confidence. It comes from communication that blends into what is already familiar. When language follows predictable patterns, it loses impact. The purpose here is to explain two simple words that reduce that predictability. These words are not a technique, a performance, or a form of manipulation. They reflect basic psychological processes related to attention and recognition. The underlying issue is saturation. People are exposed to language constantly. Compliments, questions, opinions, and personal stories arrive in a steady stream. Over time, much of this input merges into a uniform background. Common openings such as greetings, compliments on appearance, or routine questions are not incorrect. They are simply expected. The brain learns to anticipate them and reduces its response. Neuroscience describes this process as habituation. When a stimulus is repeated or predicted, neural response decreases. Attention shifts elsewhere. The same principle explains why persistent background sounds eventually fade from awareness. In conversation, predictable language functions in a similar way. It is processed quickly and then filtered out. Under these conditions, sustained attention is unlikely and attraction struggles to develop. The two words in question are, "I noticed." They are brief and neutral, yet their effect is consistent. Their strength lies not in emphasis or delivery, but in how they are processed cognitively. When someone says, "I noticed," three signals are conveyed simultaneously. The first is presence. The statement indicates active attention rather than passive participation. The second is selectivity. It suggests that a specific detail stood out rather than a generic observation. The third is curiosity. The listener anticipates additional information. Curiosity interrupts automatic behavior. It introduces a brief pause in which attention narrows. That pause can feel like a moment of stillness, not because of control or pressure, but because the mind is engaged. This response is rooted in recognition. The human brain is highly responsive to being noticed without being evaluated. When observation occurs without judgment, the nervous system tends to remain regulated rather than defensive. "I noticed" functions as an observational statement. It does not rank, praise, or demand agreement. It does not seek validation or approval. It simply reports perception from the speaker's point of view. This framing lowers psychological resistance. In clinical terms, it represents low threat engagement. Under low threat, the brain remains open to interaction rather than shifting into self-protective modes. That openness is a prerequisite for attraction. Without it, communication remains superficial. In practical terms, the difference becomes clear through comparison. A direct compliment on appearance is common and usually anticipated. An observational statement, by contrast, introduces novelty without escalation. For example, noting a change in expression during a specific moment or a shift in tone when an environment changes signals attention to detail. Observing a pause before speaking communicates awareness of process rather than outcome. Such statements do not require an immediate response. They allow the listener to decide whether and how to engage. In many cases, engagement occurs naturally, often through clarification or curiosity. This pattern is consistent with established psychological principles. Attention increases when an individual feels seen without pressure. Engagement rises when communication feels specific but non-intrusive. The phrase also serves a functional role for men who experience reduced confidence due to stress, burnout, or emotional exhaustion. It does not depend on humor, dominance, or expressive delivery. It relies on awareness. Awareness tends to produce calm behavior. Calm behavior is associated with emotional stability. Emotional stability, in turn, affects how communication is perceived. When internal conditions feel disordered, language benefits from grounding. Observational statements provide that grounding. They reduce the sense of performance and limit the urge to impress. This shift has physiological effects. Reduced performance pressure often leads to more regulated breathing, steadier tone, and clearer pacing. These changes are subtle but influential. The skill involved is not limited to interpersonal interaction. It can be trained through daily habits. One effective practice involves beginning the day with observation. Upon waking, stating a single observation aloud reinforces this pattern. The content is not important. It may involve energy levels, sleep quality, or mental state. The goal is to observe rather than judge. This practice trains attentional control. It strengthens the ability to notice without reacting. Observation reduces anxiety by increasing predictability and internal coherence. Lower anxiety improves communication quality. Anxiety interferes with attraction by narrowing focus inward. Observational habits redirect attention outward in a measured way. In conversation, pacing matters. After stating, "I noticed," allowing a brief pause before completing the thought gives the statement room to register. The pause does not require emphasis or performance. It supports clarity. Neutral delivery enhances credibility. Excessive expression or exaggerated tone can undermine the observational nature of the statement. A steady voice communicates confidence without assertion. Responses may vary. Engagement may follow, or it may not. Either outcome provides information. The purpose is not control, but alignment. Observational language clarifies whether mutual attention is present. This approach is particularly relevant after emotional loss. Heartbreak often leads to explaining and communicating in an attempt to restore connection. Observational language reverses that pattern. It slows interaction and reduces urgency. It shifts focus from seeking validation to maintaining presence. It restores a sense of agency by emphasizing perception over approval. Internally, this shift replaces questions about adequacy with statements of presence. The change may appear minor, but its psychological implications are substantial. Consistency develops through reflection. At the end of the day, identifying observed moments reinforces attentional habits. This reflection excludes evaluation. It focuses solely on noticing. Over time, this practice supports emotional regulation. Regulated emotional states improve communication efficiency. Clear communication supports genuine connection. Attraction emerges from emotional safety and sustained attention, not from elaborate phrasing. Observational language respects both participants by avoiding pressure and expectation. "I noticed" functions because it neither rushes nor demands. It allows interaction to unfold without force. Periods of emotional difficulty do not require transformation into someone else. They require steadier presence and clearer perception. Attention, applied consistently, supports both. If this explanation clarified how simple language choices influence attention and interaction, continued engagement with similar material may be useful. Sharing such information can also benefit others who experience similar difficulties. Effective communication does not rely on tricks. It relies on clarity, awareness, and restraint.